All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
No! No! I refuse! I'm sick of it!
Zoom in here and it says, with the compliments of Her Royal Highness.
They won't let me call myself Her Royal Highness anymore, but I'm gonna put it all over my stationery and on the gifts that I give to my friends.
Truly, I want to like something about her. I'm searching for something to like about her, and it's so hard.
She married for money. It's very clear she bagged the elephant. She was thrilled she became a, quote, princess.
But you're the same.
You're the same.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, guys, you don't gotta do this. Please, I'm begging you to stop.
It was supposed to be her big swing at relatability, a stripped-down, wholesome lifestyle series, part cooking, part family, part look, I'm just like you, all produced under her and Harry's massive Netflix deal, reportedly worth a staggering $20 million. But now, that cozy culinary dream is dead.
I don't like her.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Everybody who works for her quits. Everybody says she's a bully. She's very nasty.
Sources say Meghan Markle's long-rumored Netflix cooking show has quietly been shelved, paused indefinitely, or, depending on who you believe, canceled altogether. No official announcement, no heartfelt goodbye post. Just a slow vanishing act as executives allegedly back away from what they once hoped would be a brand-defining success.
Not only is she incredibly controlling, but she's a bitch about it to everybody who works for her. When things inevitably start spiraling downward, she blames everyone but herself.
Insiders close to the production claim that Netflix lost faith in the series after early footage failed to impress, calling it painfully staged, visually gorgeous but emotionally hollow, and worst of all, completely unrelatable. The problem wasn't just the content, it was the star.
She's trying to sell herself as this wholesome mother who's baking cookies and making tea for the rest of the family.
Meghan's version of home cooking reportedly featured custom aprons, floral garnishes, multiple camera setups, and a team of stylists just off-screen. One source quipped that it resembled a perfume ad with cupcakes, more than a genuine cooking show, an impression that may not have aligned with audience expectations for authenticity. And for a platform still recovering from its Harry and Meghan docuseries backlash and a pricey Spotify breakup, it's not hard to imagine why execs might be growing cautious.
You could do this with one small row for your kids for breakfast, genuinely, and it makes the morning a lot more fun.
Meghan's cooking show was pitched as real, grounded, emotional, but as one anonymous Netflix consultant told British tabloids, she cried under flattering lighting, baked with perfectly styled hair, and even signed off camera notes with her royal title, details that some say made the show a tough sell for audiences craving something more down to earth. For Netflix, the optics are brutal. This was supposed to be the project that reset her image. After the Snow White accusations of inauthenticity, after the Spotify exit, after the awkward Time Summit cameo, this was the chance to show Meghan unplugged. But now, with the show reportedly mothballed and murmurs of disappointment rippling through the industry, the bigger question is echoing louder than ever. Is the Netflix deal itself falling apart?
40 minutes into the podcast, this little picture, quite a grainy picture, flashed up, which shows a basket of, homemade preserves with a card on it, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan.
I find it a little bit cringe to give a gift to a close friend and sign it Her Royal Highness.
Why even in private? She's using that full title, Her Royal Highness.
I would never refer to myself as Her Royal Highness.
Because if the cooking show, the lowest risk, most brand-friendly concept in her arsenal, couldn't survive production, what does that say about the future of her media empire? From the very beginning, the cooking show sounded a little too curated. Marketed as a heartwarming behind-the-scenes glimpse into Meghan Markle's authentic home life, it promised fresh ingredients, family moments, and personal storytelling. But anyone paying attention could tell, this wasn't Julia Child. It wasn't even Gwyneth Paltrow. It was pure performance, wrapped in beige linens and sprinkled with Pinterest-level aesthetics. And now that it's allegedly been cut, many are asking the obvious. Was the cooking show ever meant to exist in the first place? Or was it just another layer of the Duchess of Branding's carefully orchestrated image? Let's rewind.
She wants us to put together a fruit crudité board for our children in the morning. Now, look, Maureen.
I can't.
Look at this.
I can't.
When the concept leaked, it was pitched as part of the broader Netflix content pipeline, something light and lifestyle-focused to offset the couple's darker, documentary-heavy offerings. Meghan was supposed to step into the kitchen, sans makeup, with the kids running around and Harry maybe popping in to taste test her famous banana bread. That's the fantasy. But what we actually got, a single overproduced teaser photo, a few staged mentions in interviews, and silence. No rollout, no trailer, no calendar date, no evidence that anything real was being cooked, except maybe a PR stunt. And the few crumbs we did get were deeply unconvincing. Meghan talking about dried flower petals on scrambled eggs. Meghan describing her morning routine of crafting artisanal fruit boards for toddlers. Meghan, allegedly fresh-faced, chopping herbs with the intensity of someone who's never used a knife outside of a Vogue shoot.
I knew her a bit before she met Harry. She was nothing like that. She didn't speak like that. Her mannerisms weren't like that. This is all fake.
One viewer who previewed an early clip claimed it looked like an Instagram ad for napkins, not a cooking show. The lighting was perfect, the counters were spotless, and the food, too styled to eat. It all screamed aspiration, not authenticity. Even the emotional tone felt forced. Early promotional materials described the show as rooted in community, nourishment, and story. But those close to the production say Meghan was heavily focused on image control, insisting on reshoots if her hair didn't fall exactly right or if the kids made too much noise in the background. She wanted to look maternal, one insider said, but not actually be maternal on camera. Every crumb was staged, and that's the problem. For a woman desperate to convince the world she's relatable, Meghan Markle keeps producing content that feels like it was designed in a brand strategy meeting and run through 4 layers of lighting and legal approval. The cooking show could have been her most human moment. Instead, it's become the latest example of just how allergic she is to real mess, real emotion, real life.
By the way, I love your Luke.
Sorry, what's that?
Your Luke. You look amazing. Your Luke.
My Luke. My
Luke. My look. She likes my Luke.
Behind the scenes, Netflix executives are said to be getting antsy. What was once a glittering $100 million partnership headlined by the royal couple is now being dissected in boardrooms with furrowed brows and the words under-delivering floating through the air. According to multiple industry sources, Meghan and Harry's multi-year deal with the streaming giant, of which her canceled cooking show was just one part, is beginning to look more like a liability than a long-term investment. And Meghan, once the centerpiece of the brand, may be the one Netflix is most ready to cut loose. It all started with big dreams. In the early days of the deal, the Sussexes promised documentaries, children's content, scripted series, and yes, even personal projects like the cooking show. But nearly 4 years later, the output has been sparse. Apart from the bombshell Harry and Meghan docuseries, which yes, broke records, but also broke the public's patience, the couple has failed to deliver consistent, sustainable content. And in Meghan's case, her promised creative endeavors have either stalled, flopped, or vanished.
I just think she's crying for sympathy, playing the victim, when there's nothing to be a victim about, and there's also no sympathy to be granted for this lifestyle that she's chosen to live.
Netflix isn't in the business of infinite patience. After all, this is the same company that shelved entire series and axed million-dollar projects midstream. One insider close to Netflix's original content division recently told British media they signed for star power. But the problem with star power is that when it fizzles, all you're left with is the price tag. Meghan's brand, which once screamed global intrigue, is now riddled with public skepticism, failed launches, and increasingly low engagement. In short, the risk is starting to outweigh the reward, and it's not just the cooking show. Rumors swirl that other Meghan-led projects have either stalled in development or been downgraded quietly. Scripts aren't getting fast-tracked. Meetings are getting shorter. Producers once eager to attach themselves to the Duchess's next idea are reportedly keeping their distance. It's a Hollywood freeze-out, not loud or dramatic, but unmistakable. Even within Netflix, the tone has shifted. Gone are the internal memos calling the couple a content revolution. In their place, phrases like limited appeal, PR baggage, and brand fragility. There's a growing belief that Meghan's projects generate buzz. Yes, but the wrong kind. Instead of positive anticipation, her content now arrives with a side of eye-rolling, me-meification, and think pieces about why everything she touches feels insincere.
Now, more troubles for poor Meghan. She's been threatened with a $10 million lawsuit after a woman suffered catastrophic burns, allegedly from the Duchess's do-it-yourself bath salt recipe.
For Meghan, this couldn't come at a worse time. With Spotify officially terminating their deal last year and making no secret of their dissatisfaction, the Netflix partnership became the crown jewel of her media ambitions. If that falls apart, the entire foundation of the Sussexes' Hollywood life starts to look a little less like strategy and a little more like fantasy. Meghan's podcast comeback was supposed to be a clean slate, a no-frills, deeply personal conversation meant to humanize her again. After the royal drama, the Spotify flameout, and mounting public cynicism, this was her shot to prove she could still connect. Just her, a friend, no makeup, and a microphone. But instead of a raw reveal, what listeners got was one of the most transparently choreographed PR spectacles in recent memory. And now, insiders are whispering that the podcast, meant to build anticipation for future Netflix and media projects, may have done the exact opposite. Let's start with the optics.
Here is the intro of the episode. Look at this.
Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, in her first ever podcast interview. It's happening!
Branded as intimate and vulnerable, the podcast opened with Meghan's insistence that she was barefaced and unscripted. "It's so nice to not have makeup on," she cooed, even as her voice sounded suspiciously rehearsed and her blowout looked straight out of a Netflix beauty campaign. Viewers didn't buy it. Critics certainly didn't, and TikTok had a field day. "No makeup? Girl, that's a $500 no makeup look," one viral commenter posted. Another joked, "She cries prettier than I photograph at my wedding." But it wasn't just the glam denial, it was the emotional performance itself.
Yeah, it's just so great. This is why it's so nice to not have makeup on.
Meghan tried tears, pauses, soft quivers, carefully curated humility. But as one listener put it bluntly, even her breakdowns feel branded. She recounted her struggles, her identity, her exhaustion, and somehow, every single anecdote looped back to her. Even when she talked about her kids, it circled back to how much she had to juggle. The whole episode felt less like vulnerability and more like a monologue with strategic hashtags. And then there was Jamie Kern-Lima, the billionaire beauty founder turned interviewer, whose job, it seems, was to nod, gasp, and validate every single thing Meghan said. The vibe wasn't interview, it was fan club meeting. "You're so brave," Jamie repeated, "so inspiring, so authentic, so unchallenged." Meghan could have read a cereal box and been met with tears and applause.
Something's up here. See that little shoulder shrug when she said yes?
Yes.
Did you hear how high her voice was when she said yes?
Yes.
When we're stressed, our larynx closes up a little bit and our voice tone gets a little bit higher. That's why the pitch of the yes is so high.
One reviewer on Apple Podcasts simply wrote, "If this is what passes for truth, we're in real trouble." Worse still, the podcast didn't even serve its business purpose. While it pulled in millions of streams, thanks to name recognition, the fallout online was savage. Comment sections were flooded with sarcasm. Think pieces dismantled every quote. Even fans began questioning if Meghan was genuinely trying to be heard or just trying to stay relevant. And for Netflix executives watching closely, this was the opposite of momentum. This podcast was supposed to be the bridge to bigger things, lifestyle series, new docuseries, brand extensions. But instead, it confirmed the growing suspicion that Meghan's public appearances aren't about connection. They're about control. Every word, every sigh, every strategically timed "are you okay" is just another layer of performance. And people are done applauding. By now, it's not just skeptics raising eyebrows, it's everyone. Meghan Markle's reputation for inauthenticity has officially reached a tipping point, and while her PR team may still be clinging to words like relatable and raw, the internet has moved on to a much harsher vocabulary: performative, scripted, fake. And nowhere has that perception been more amplified than in the reaction to her now infamous tears on command moment. Let's start with the lore. During her Suits press tour years ago, Meghan reportedly joked with a photographer that she could make herself cry on cue, specifically with her left eye. "Watch this," she allegedly said, then produced a single Oscar-worthy tear while grinning proudly. It was a party trick. But now, in light of her dramatic podcast breakdown, that detail has resurfaced.
And here's everything and every moment that I wanted to tell you how much I love you and like how proud I am of you. And of all things, it's making me emotional.
And she also is pretending that she's crying. There isn't a tear in sight. It's an actor's trick.
You'll make yourself cry. Oh, I can do that so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like, Meghan, one tear, left eye, go. Give me 3 seconds.
And viewers are asking, was any of this real? Or was Meghan just tapping her left eye again? The accusations came fast. TikTok sleuths posted side-by-sides of her crying naturally on her podcast versus past moments of obvious PR posturing. The verdict? Unanimous. Those weren't tears, one viral comment read. Those were product placement. Another added, even her sadness has a glam team. And when a Daily Mail columnist called her emotional delivery a masterclass in commercialized victimhood, few disagreed. What's especially jarring is the contrast between how Meghan frames her vulnerability and how it actually lands. She says she's being honest. Viewers hear spin. She insists she's sharing her heart. Critics say she's workshopping her next brand pitch. It's the emotional equivalent of a press release dressed in linen, soft on the outside, but hard-sold on the inside. And it's not just media pundits or Twitter snarks. Industry insiders have started using words like overproduced and high maintenance. According to one former collaborator, the vibe on set was perfectly imperfect, where even the lighting and pauses were calibrated for effect, raising questions about how spontaneous the emotional tone truly was. Another said bluntly, it didn't feel like Oprah-style vulnerability. It felt more like it was being run by a stage manager. Worse still, even Meghan's more emotional stories are falling flat. Like her now famous "I write nightly emails to my toddlers" claim, a detail meant to show devotion, but which most people read as bizarre and self-congratulatory. Who writes emails to children who can't read, while clearly intended to show heartfelt parenting? Some listeners saw it as more strategic than sentimental, sparking online reactions like, is this parenting or PR? Another user joked, Archie's inbox is already more tragic than Yahoo News. And that's the core issue, authenticity fatigue.
Do you think you'll be married forever?
Yes.
I have a letter.
He's also a fox. If you haven't noticed, my husband's very, very handsome. But his heart is even more beautiful.
Whoops, something's up here. See that little shoulder shrug when she said yes?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Did you hear how high her voice was when she said yes?
Yes.
When we're stressed, our larynx closes up a little bit and our voice tone gets a little bit higher. That's why the pitch of the S is so high.
Yes.
At some point, even the most forgiving audience starts to see the seams. Meghan's tears don't move people anymore. They raise questions. Her raw moments are now read like monologues. Her silence is seen as strategy. Her sincerity, no matter how heartfelt, comes pre-wrapped in suspicion. If you thought the podcast backlash was bad, wait until you see the receipts. Literally. Because Meghan's lifestyle empire isn't just facing scrutiny for being fake. It's facing full-blown customer rage over botched orders, refund delays, and overpriced, under-delivered merch drops that look more like grifts than global moments of intentional joy. And now, even some of her once loyal fans are starting to ask, where is all this money going? It all started with a series of ultra-curated product launches, baking mixes, artisanal jams, wellness-adjacent teas, and minimalist home goods with names like Cradle and Still. Everything sold out within minutes. The marketing was flawless. The influencers were briefed. The packaging was beige. But there was just one problem. Customers never received their orders. Or if they did, they arrived weeks late, missing items, or with invoices, but no product inside. Reddit threads exploded. Comment sections were filled with complaints. Still waiting on my order from 3 weeks ago, one buyer wrote. I emailed the contact page, got a reply saying they're working on fulfillment and nothing since. Others complained about being charged twice. Some were told refunds would take up to 30 business days. Some disappointed buyers compared the rollout to a Goop-style launch without the refinement, voicing frustration over missed deliveries and vague refund timelines. And it's not just the delivery issues, it's the content of what's being sold. Critics slammed the items as overpriced, underdeveloped, and aggressively out of touch. A 6-piece cookie cutter set for $72? A chalkboard menu board for $48? This is Dollar Tree with Duchess branding, one TikToker declared. Another viral post joked, at that price, this better include Harry in an apron. The sentiment? The products looked premium, but many questioned whether the value matched. What makes the backlash worse is how silent the brand has been in response. There's no apology video, no official statement, just vague language about scaling up fulfillment and improving back-end systems. Meanwhile, the press releases keep flowing. More product lines, more curated boxes, more intentional storytelling. It's like the ship is flooding, but someone keeps announcing new cocktails on the deck. And then, there's the trademark drama. Meghan's filings for everything from yoga mats to pet bowls to herbal skincare lines have been widely mocked as overreaching. Critics are calling it a cash grab disguised as empowerment. Even supporters admit the scope feels desperate. It's like she threw every Etsy idea on a wall and trademarked it, one user quipped. She's trying to build Goop 2.0, but without the business savvy or the honesty. Ultimately, what started as a glossy empire of mindfulness is rapidly earning a reputation as an overpriced, underperforming facade. And with customers demanding refunds, influencers backing out, and even brand collaborators allegedly growing uneasy, the whole operation is starting to look less like a business and more like a scam in slow motion.
He's called Meghan Markle nasty and says he feels sorry for Prince Harry because his wife is a lot to deal with.
If Meghan Markle truly left the royal family behind, someone might want to tell her stationery drawer. Because while she no longer uses the title Her Royal Highness in any official capacity, thanks to that pesky agreement with the palace, multiple sources, and one very public gift basket, suggest she's still clinging to the crown behind closed doors. And for someone trying so hard to position herself as modern, grounded, and independent, that little monogram may have just reignited a whole new round of royal backlash. It all started when a photo surfaced from one of Meghan's recent podcast promotional rounds, an innocent-looking basket of artisanal preserves, homemade strawberry sauce, and custom-branded ice cream toppings sent to a friend. Sweet, right? Until someone zoomed in on the card, printed in elegant font, with love, HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. Yes, Her Royal Highness. And no, it wasn't a recycled label from 2018. This was recent. Very recent. The internet erupted. Is she joking? One Twitter user posted. Didn't she literally agree not to use that title anymore? Another wrote, she's not a duchess. She's a drama major who married a prince and now sends fruit baskets like she's still in the crown. Even supporters were baffled. Look, I'm Team Meghan most of the time, one Instagram commenter admitted, but this is cringe. You can't reject the monarchy publicly and then turn around and use the title for strawberry jam. The optics? Terrible. The hypocrisy? Blinding. Meghan and Harry left royal life citing institutional toxicity, media harassment, and a desire to raise their kids outside the palace bubble. So when she continues to brand herself, however subtly, as royalty, the entire "we just want a normal life" narrative collapses under its own contradiction. You can't play the victim of monarchy politics while quietly cashing in on the prestige, and this isn't the first time she's been caught doing it. Meghan has reportedly used the HRH signature on private invitations, in charity acknowledgements, and even on promotional thank you cards to brand partners. It's never technically illegal, since she wasn't stripped of the title, but it violates the public understanding agreed upon when she and Harry stepped back. It's a power play in cursive font, and royal insiders are not amused. One palace aide allegedly told the Express, "It's like she wants the fairy tale optics without the responsibility. You can't be Her Royal Highness on Tuesday and just Meghan on Thursday." Another source close to the firm said it bluntly, she wants the perks, not the protocol. And the damage isn't just reputational, it's strategic. Brands partnering with Meghan are now forced to navigate a delicate PR line. Do they acknowledge her royal history or keep her image strictly civilian? As one Hollywood agent put it, it's a nightmare. She wants to sell empowerment and lifestyle, but also keep the mystique of monarchy. You can't have both. If Meghan Markle's Netflix deal wasn't already in trouble, her appearance at the Time 100 summit might have nudged it closer to the cliff. Billed as a thought leader among global changemakers, Meghan took the stage in designer beige to deliver a speech about, well, no one's quite sure. Something about tiny flower petals, joy as a lifestyle, and the magic of elevated scrambled eggs. It was word salad with a sprig of lavender on top. And by the time she was done, the internet had one overwhelming reaction. What did we just watch?
You know, Trump says he hates the way that Harry dealt with the late Queen, and judging by his friendliness towards King Charles, he won't appreciate the way Harry continues to run his mouth against the monarchy today.
Let's set the scene. Meghan wasn't even on the Time 100 list. She was invited to the summit as a special guest, likely arranged through her talent agency. But you wouldn't have known that based on how she was introduced, or how she carried herself. Sitting beside self-made billionaires and genuine policy changers, Meghan delivered a speech so overflowing with vague positivity, it could have been pulled from the inside of a yogi tea bag. One line in particular went viral for all the wrong reasons. There's a level of charm that emerges when we notice the beauty of tiny dried flower petals on our food. Yes, that's a real quote. No, it wasn't satire. And yes, someone in the crowd reportedly laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. The backlash was instant. Memes flooded social media. Commentators joked that her words sounded like rejected Goop copy. One particularly brutal tweet said, "We've moved from royal drama to Gwyneth Paltrow cosplay, and she's not even doing it well." Others pointed out how wildly disconnected the speech felt from real-world issues. "She's talking about egg garnish like it's international diplomacy," one post read. Meanwhile, people are out here rationing groceries. Even the Time Summit's own footage betrayed the awkwardness. Audience members shifted in their seats. Applause was polite, but tepid. And while Meghan smiled and gestured with that familiar soft focus poise, nothing she said landed. It wasn't inspiring. It wasn't challenging. It was empty, beautifully lit, beautifully branded, and totally hollow. Critics weren't subtle. The Daily Mail described her appearance as delusional influencer theater. The Telegraph's culture desk said her presence cheapened the summit's integrity. And online, the comments were even less forgiving. "She's not elevating anything," one viewer snapped. "She's just saying big words and pretty outfits." For Netflix, it's another warning sign. Meghan is still being pitched as a cultural tastemaker, but when given the mic, she delivers TED Talk cosplay that audiences either mock or tune out. If this is the persona backing their multi-million-dollar content deal, it's no wonder internal confidence is fading. If Meghan's cooking show flop and lifestyle brand attachment weren't already enough, Prince Harry's recent BBC interview may have just set the entire Sussex media machine ablaze. What was supposed to be a sober conversation about safety concerns and family dynamics quickly unraveled into what critics are now calling a royal pity parade. And instead of generating sympathy, Harry's tone-deaf delivery and his borderline, manipulative sound bites only deepened public fatigue around the Sussexes' never-ending "we're the real victims" narrative. In the interview, Harry once again brought up security concerns, this time connecting them to King Charles, essentially suggesting that if something happened to him, Meghan, or their children, it would be the monarchy's fault. That's right. While Charles continues cancer treatment, Harry is out here dangling phrases like, "Look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren." The implication? If tragedy strikes, it's not fate, it's negligence. Or worse, revenge. The backlash was swift. British outlets like the Mirror and the Daily Mail labeled the remarks as emotional blackmail. ITV reported that palace insiders found the comments shockingly poor in taste, especially considering Charles's health. And the public? They were even harsher. "He lost the plot," one BBC viewer posted. "This isn't concern, it's PR wrapped in guilt. Tactics." Another said, "Harry just weaponized his children to score a point against his dad. That's not advocacy, that's emotional terrorism." But what really stung was the way his words came across as scripted. Just like Meghan's podcast, the delivery didn't feel spontaneous. It felt planned, polished, too perfect in all the wrong ways. It left viewers wondering if these two are even capable of a moment that isn't pre-approved by consultants. And for a couple who once declared they were leaving the royal family to escape media manipulation, they sure seem committed to producing the most calculated public appearances in modern royal history. The BBC segment also reignited old wounds. Critics resurfaced clips from Harry's earlier interviews, highlighting how often he pivots every conversation, no matter the topic, back to his own sense of grievance. His memoir, his Netflix doc, his podcast comments, the speech circuit, it's all a loop. And with every pass, audiences grow more skeptical. And let's not forget the timing. Just days before this interview, Meghan's podcast was being called the fakest thing since spray cheese. Now Harry jumps in with a gloomy monologue that only adds more cringe to the brand. Together, they're reinforcing what more and more people are starting to believe, that the Sussexes don't want privacy, healing, or truth. They want headlines, on their terms, always. With Netflix execs already nervous, Harry's drama isn't helping. If anything, he's pushing their entire media image deeper into parody territory. Because when the prince is busy crying on camera, while low-key blaming his father for potential future tragedy, and the Duchess is filming tear-free breakdowns in between jars of $28 jam, the line between reality and reality TV disappears completely. The cooking show being shelved may have been the first public crack, but now it's starting to look like the entire foundation is crumbling. Meghan Markle's carefully constructed media brand, once valued in the tens of millions, is losing traction with audiences, credibility with platforms, and, most telling of all, patience from the very executives who once bet big on her. And the question no one wants to say out loud is suddenly on everyone's lips. Is this the end of Meghan Markle's Hollywood experiment? At first, it all seemed unstoppable. She was everywhere, headlining Netflix's biggest docuseries of the year, inking deals with Spotify, selling out lifestyle products in minutes, and appearing on panels with billionaires and global thought leaders. But now, Spotify's gone. The cooking show's gone. Her lifestyle brand is being roasted for refund issues and pretentious products. Her podcast is mocked for its emotional shallowness. Even her raw and unscripted persona has been reduced to a meme about dried flower petals on eggs. Worse yet, the public no longer seems split on her. The skepticism is mainstream. Whether it's Gen Z roasting her on TikTok, Twitter threads pulling apart her every speech, or major outlets questioning her authenticity, this isn't just a bump in the road, it's a full-blown identity collapse. Her image, once tightly controlled and positioned as elegant yet relatable, has unraveled into something that feels artificial, exhausting, and increasingly out of touch. And in Hollywood, where momentum is everything, being seen as fake is fatal. Netflix, according to insiders, is watching closely. If Meghan can't land her next project, if audience sentiment doesn't shift, if another cancellation leaks to the press, the deal could go dark entirely. The platform has already proven it isn't afraid to walk away from big names that don't perform. And right now, Meghan isn't performing. Not emotionally, not creatively, not commercially. She's stalling. And Harry's dramatic contributions, far from helping, are only making things worse. Of course, this is Meghan Markle we're talking about. Reinvention is her brand. She's not short on resources, and there will always be someone willing to fund the next pivot. But the runway is shrinking. And for the first time in years, the world isn't watching with curiosity, it's watching with doubt. Maybe even boredom. So now we ask, can she win back public trust? Will she pull off another headline-making transformation? Or is this cooking show cancellation just the first casualty in a bigger unraveling? One that ends not with a bang, but with a polite platform email that says, "Thanks, but we're going in another direction." What do you think? Is Meghan's Netflix era officially over, or does she have one last act left to cook up? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.